Okay.
See even further why that sort of became submitted.
That he was above it.
That's why you thought that?
Yeah.
So Faye, that's my child thing, right? When you see the
All right.
red character,
Let's
essentially like flash in front of us. And then Ramses says, is it him in quotations? Same way that Saitan referred to, oh, if he emerges here back in Lahan.
Right.
Right. Is it him, or do I only want to think so? If it is him, I am, and he's getting all nervous.
His father.
No, but then it flashes
His
again.
father.
It flashes again.
Yeah.
It says worthless or reject.
Yes, because he didn't recognize his own son. I just totally read this wrong. I am worthless. I'm a reject if this is him, because I didn't even recognize him.
Ramses
right in front of me.
is
Right
a very important. He's like the leading commanding officer.
Yeah,
for
forget
him.
it. Yeah.
So he's reached this sort of level or rank.
Yeah.
And so the emergence of Faye is leading him to feel like, uh-oh, if it is him, I'm
He's
worthless, I'm a reject.
That's weird because he thinks very highly of himself.
Yes.
So for him to say
He
that is
feels
something
personally threatened
else.
by Faye's, if this is
His
him,
existence. Yeah.
that he's threatening my position, he's threatening my existence, he's threatening my value as a person.
Well, and as we learn later, he has a goal. He's trying to, like, control his people into doing certain things a certain way
Yeah.
because of how he was raised and where he came from.
Right.
It's a little bit different, and so somehow Faye kind of gets in the way of his plans or something like that.
Yeah.
I just can't. I have to reinterpret on the plan because I read it.
Don't worry.
That's so funny.
Don't worry, there's a lot more to learn about Ramses.
But I did not think that Mian
Yeah.
was Faye's mother. Didn't think that at all.
Yeah.
But I did think Ramses was.
Okay. So then, yeah, Margie with the freaking rats.
Yes, so great.
Okay, whatever.
Oh, but I did have one thing to bring up though. The red-haired. So in our flashback where we saw our father, and he was like, "I'll never let you have him." And then there's the red-haired person, and then there's Graf. We are in that cutscene.
Okay, actually,
we are there. We are watching this from a distance.
Okay.
Like Faye is there watching.
Yes.
He's there.
Okay, but hold on. Now I'm actually further curious. So you saw Faye's dad in the scene. I remember now.
Yes.
I go like, yeah, that's his dad. He's got like the mustache and the dark hair.
Yes.
But how did you think?
All right.
This
that
threw
Ramses
everything
is
off now.
him? I guess.
Oh my gosh, you're totally right. But okay, you're right.
All
I
right.
don't know how. That's a very good question.
I'm back. Got some time, so what I'm going to do is jump on to the next page, man.
And I would have said.
And yeah, this will be the last page in a while for the these ink squares that are really compromising these drawings. It's finally getting to that point.
Yes, but at the same
So,
time, this is a memory long since past, right? He didn't even remember.
but yeah,
In my mind, it was
this is cool, man.
Kid, and then the kid was at a very young age taken away from him.
But yeah, you could definitely see the quality, the change in quality from drawing things. I mean, there was a time I was drawing pictures just this big standard, and yeah, like back here. And I was using duller markers.
It didn't,
Man.
made sense that if it was adopted out earlier, then that would have been who he thought was his dad. But even still, he's in there. So
Okay.
this guy is seeing
Yeah, so there's definitely a change in quality with the change in markers.
And the connection is that Faye, in some way, is the red-haired guy.
But yeah, you could definitely see how drawing something this big.
Anime scene where his dad is there. So they're separate. Like they're different. And so but anyways, it does also bring back what Satan said towards the beginning with the music box where he
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
there's somebody else like inside of us.
I'm gonna have to figure this out.
I don't understand because we were
I have to
both
figure something
at
out.
the same time in the same spot. So there's
Yeah,
something weird there.
because you can see drawing these things this small just isn't cutting it anymore. You know?
Somehow we merged together.
like if it was for a bust or something. But I really wanted to get the floral aspect because she has the hair covering up in here.
I'm like,
Kind of get the whole
you know what?
flower
They're just
opening
pieces that weren't
aspect
supposed to go together. And so I'm like, where's
of the dress.
where's the rest of the puzzle? But they fit perfectly, but they don't go together.
But yeah,
Like the piece snapped, but it was like the
Yeah,
pictures
the
didn't
jig
align.
cuts were perfect.
Huh.
The picture, it's the wrong picture. Yeah.
okay.
Okay, so you run away from a bunch of
So yeah, as we discussed
gambling
earlier,
people, and,
I'm finishing up with this one now,
yeah,
and we're gonna jump onto this design. So it's super interesting. Like, you know, she has this black leather, but then this really like mahogany brown leather
but before
and blonde hair, ivory guns. So you know, it's gonna be a good play with colors, but also it's a interesting pose too. I really like this. So
At least in part of why he's suspicious of everything.
yeah,
People of Ellie's group. But he also says just a little
guess
bit later, yeah, I
we'll
saw
just draw it, right?
the drive, which we saw in the last episode. He's like, yeah, it was just, he just says it like nonchalantly, but it's like.
Let's just get to it.
And among those reasons is that Ellie is like, don't trust me. She's like, you're my enemy.
basically, yeah, she's obviously struggling, but
Clear.
she, and this kind of goes back to the conversation that Santana and Ellie had at the fireside back in the Blackman Forest, right? Where she basically says that she and Faye are the same, right? Even though
Okay.
it comes from this society where they view lambs or surface dwellers as
Like inferior.
some humans.
Yeah,
She saw that they were the same, that she's not better, you know, than him. And he's a lamb, and so she's having that epiphany. Or at least she even mentions that her father had, you know, compassion for
Right.
surface
And kind
dwellers.
of raised her that.
So she has some of that in her family already.
Mhm.
But Saitan was, you know, he made a point on that, like, that's not common, you know, in the country where you come from, that
Right,
people can see what you're seeing like that. And so she cares about Faye, she's conflicted about what her country is doing to surface dwellers, or at least the way that they view them and treat them. But at the same time, she's in the military, and the military is all about discipline and following orders, and there's very heavy consequences for not doing so.
Although her regiment of troops that she's in charge
And
of,
they don't want to listen to her.
they are the least disciplined, the most like non-militaristic type.
Yeah, it's kind of like almost like a special forces or like a squad.
Yeah, where they're allowed to be a little more
And
like
they're a little cocky, they're kind of
Yeah.
like elite, you know.
yeah, 'cause it's like what I'm the best here. What are you gonna do?
And she's young, so like they don't
Mhm.
respect her, like she's younger than all of them.
Yeah.
But anyways, she decides to help. She pulls them into her room and lets them hide. I kind of like, because I was listening to headphones, how the footsteps outside sort of pans from
Yeah,
right to left.
I'm using headphones too, and yeah, there's
Just a
I'm
nice
using
little,
that pretty heavily.
nice little sound effect to get that
Yeah.
they're moving around outside and they're like listening through the door, and then they're gone and it's like, okay, we can get out now. But there's some really good dialogue in there between Ellie and Faye. In fact, let me pull it up because I forgot to copy some of this down. But because Faye more or less reveals that he knows that she was responsible for what happened at Lahan, right? And she's like,
because he's like, I listened to you talking to Satan.
yeah. Okay, it sounds like they've gone. And then Bart, Faye, can you explain to me how you know a Gembler officer? He says, well, and then Bart's like, I don't want to know where you met her, but no matter how you look at it, she's a Gembler officer, not an enemy. Where do you get off saying that? Bart's like, really upset.
Yeah.
And then Ellie basically reveals, you know, what her rank is in her. I'm Special Forces of the Sacred Empire of Solaris, also known as Gembler. I'm Lieutenant Elihem Van Houten, or Houten,
I would pronounce it El Hayim.
Elheim Van Houten of the Ignis Army's 3rd Assault Division. And while returning from a mission to capture the newest model gear from the Kislev military factory, I was attacked by pursuing Kislev gears and crash landed in the village. And Faye is quiet. She says, I wanted to tell you, but I just couldn't bring myself to when I heard what my crash landing in your village had caused. I couldn't tell you. And then that's where Faye says, I'm you. And she's like, what? And he says, I overheard you talking with the dog. So while they were talking at that campsite, he had already revealed that he woke up partway through the conversation or something.
It sounds like
he heard the whole
time, yeah.
And then she's like, well, then why? And he says, it was all my fault, but I lashed out at you with my own feelings. I'm sorry. So this, remember, Graf did this too. She and Graf both told him, like, it's typical of you to try to deflect blame.
Yeah, to not accept responsibility for your own actions, right?
Even here, now that he's given the opportunity to accept that the fault was hers, he still takes responsibility himself.
Yeah, that's crazy. That means he's really kind of I wouldn't say he's come to terms with how many people he killed. He clearly has come to terms with that, but he has come to terms with some amount of acceptance of responsibility for his own situation. Ellie's in a similar situation though, and so when he is willing to accept that blame, he in a sense takes that takes the blame from Ellie and puts it on himself. And there's a religious parallel to this, which is Christ taking somebody else's sins and putting them upon himself. But Ellie, this makes it so that Ellie no longer has the because she's going through similar stuff. She needs to learn to take responsibility herself as well. And he's actually kind of denying her of her being able to grow. So through taking responsibility, Faye has kind of grown a little bit to some extent, and he's matured a little bit. And Ellie needs to take responsibility for her part of things too, but Faye is saying, no, it was all my fault, and he's taking that from her, which relieves it from her, but it doesn't help her to grow to the next stage of where she needs to go, which is, being more responsible and coming to terms with what she has done. But Faye doesn't know anything about that yet.
Because
we've just seen
little snippets of it.
She is not Faye pretty graphic. But she needs to come to terms with it too, but Faye's kind of not letting her, because everyone's seeing that hard line against Faye, being like, no, this is your fault, take responsibility. But I don't know that anyone's really doing that to Ellie right now to push her to take responsibility other than herself.
Right. So he says, just forget about it. You couldn't help it. You had your own problems. And then she asks why he's with Bart. He says, I'm cooperating with Bart and his crew. We came to rescue Margie, who was taken prisoner in the castle here. She says, I see. And then Bart is like, wait a minute, where do you think you're going? Because she's
going to the door.
You want to get out of the castle, right? In this confusion, you can escape through the launch door. Bart says, great idea, but do you really buy that? Again, he just feels like she's trying to trick him. Like, probably gonna turn us over to Bald Geezer, which is
it's a trick.
And Margie's like, come on, she's not bad. Like, let her help us. Bart's like, you're so stupid. Why are you guys trusting her? And ultimately, like, Faye's like, yeah, I'm gonna trust her. Like, he kind of makes the decision. He's like, yeah, a lot of you can jump off a cliff. Bart's like, I don't care. He's kind of pissed. But she gets him out. She leads them out, gets them into a gear, says you can launch with this and you can escape. And Faye tries to convince her to leave with them. Like, you're not the type of person that's suited for a place like this. He says, come with us. She's like, this is where she says, thanks, but it's impossible. I'm a Solaris soldier. This is where I belong. I can't go with you. And the next time that we meet, we'll be enemies. And she runs off. And escape. Now, this is another really big moment, because Ramses and Liang are still pursuing. They're still trying to catch them, right? So they've got like a regiment there, and they're giving them orders. And as Ramses is about to tell them, like, to send them off to like go chase them, Liang, get my Wider powered up, right? I must pursue them. So his gear, Wider, I think is the name of it. And then a soldier runs up to Ramses and like says something to him. Commander, I have a message from Hugh.
Which we know from Sigurd
is Satan.
Hugh is Satan,
Because Sigurd called him Hugh or Hugh.
Hugh got.
And then Ramses says, what? Stop the power up. Recall all the men back to the base. Wait for further orders. That fool, what is he doing down here? Ramses listened to Satan's, I don't know if we want to call it a request, or we want to call it an order or a command. It's not entirely clear.
Yes.
But a soldier came with a message from Saitan, and Ramses listened to him.
And Ramses, the highest commander in the
Listened to Saitan.
yeah, and he's like, oh, and he didn't even question it.
Nope.
He's just like, boom, shut everything down.
And he's like, you know, that fool. You know, he's frustrated by it.
Yes, that I think that was important
Yeah.
because at first it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? But Ramses is not happy about this.
Yeah.
So your initial thinking is, oh my gosh, Satan and Ramses, they're like teamed up, they're
Yeah.
working together. But the immediate next reaction from Ramses is like, that guy's an idiot. I'm so mad right now, right? But he did it, so there is some level of cooperation or trust, or they know each other, or they
Yeah.
used to know each other.
Mm-hmm.
But Ramses isn't. They're not doing plans together. Right? Ramses does not know what Satan's doing,
Yeah.
but that is very concerning that he just kind of jumps right on it.
Yep. Just another.
Although
pile.
he's our father, so no, just kidding. He is, you know, he may be. He's a conflicted character as well. Ramses, given the fact that, and it has something to do with us, that's making him really conflicted in what he's seen in the past and what he's seeing right now. And Satan does kind of know some things as well. I don't know. It kind of, honestly, instead of making me think that Satan was bad, it actually made me think Ramses was not so bad.
Yeah.
Not as bad as we had been introduced to think.
Yes.
And kind of this whole sequence of gameplay up to this point has kind of made me think that Ramses is a very developed character.
Sure.
In the
Yes.
very little time we've gotten to know him, he's very conflicted. He's very different.
Yes.
He's very, he's a strong character, I think.
He's a very strong character. He's
Yeah.
really, really good. He's one of my favorite characters in the game. A fan favorite too, I would say.
Mhm.
But in any case, this just add this on to the pile of things that makes you go like, who is this person?
I know, yeah.
What do you want?
He is like way high up, and he has connections in very high places and very low places.
It makes you always like, I guess the feeling I get, I mean, I know because I played the game, but like
Right.
in pretending like I've not played it before,
Sure.
just reading it at face
Yeah.
value and like try to like re-examine what would I think if I didn't know this kind of thing. It's like there's all these things where I just don't know what to believe
Yes.
of what Satan
I
says.
think that's what they want you to think
Yeah.
at this point. That's the creators of the game. They want you to think, I have no idea what's going on, but
When-
I'm intrigued, so I'll continue.
When he talks to us, when he talks to the party, when he
Yeah.
talks to anyone, we've seen so many examples of him not quite answering the question
Yes,
fully,
yes.
or avoiding
Yeah.
saying certain things. And so it's like he's very careful about what he reveals to us,
Yes.
but he's clearly
Yeah.
high ranking here,
And
right?
like
Or it
direct-
appears that way.
Direct communication, and throughout the course of this playthrough, he does finally start answering some questions, which you would expect after a reveal like this.
Yes.
You don't want to
need-
hold on to those questions
It
much
needs an
longer.
explanation.
You need something quickly, and the game does not wait too long to give you some of those answers. Luckily.
So we'll get into a little bit of his conversation with Sigurd, but first
Oh,
we
yeah,
got
that's
to
it.
talk about Choo-Choo. So you
Right, you get back.
get back on the Yggdrasil and you go down the hatch and the bridge door.
This is weird.
It's
They're like, this stuffed animal's blocking our way. We can't go past this stuffed
I
animal
know,
on the
like-
floor. What do we do?
Pick it
Someone
up.
else needs to pick it up.
or just step over it. It's maybe waist high.
Yeah, I know it was small. It grows when it becomes a person again, but it's tiny. It's this little thing.
It's so weird, man.
That is very strange.
This game is full of like little weird things like that. Like the parts that I feel like I remember, you know, reflecting on the game I played years ago, are like all of these like epic moments and all of the interesting philosophy and just like so like, you know, intriguing and interesting.
Yeah.
Like so like this kind of tone to what you remember. And then there's like Choo-Choo blocks the door
It's
to
like,
the bridge
I
that they
wasn't
can't
well thought through,
pass
was
it. Like why?
it's
It's so
weird.
silly. Or like Dan participating in
Yes.
the Ave
Oh,
tournament.
which by the way, Bart asks us. Bart's like, "Hey, how'd the tournament go?" And we're like, "I guess I won." And that's it. They don't say anything else about the tournament. It's just like, yeah, there's this huge, massive tournament the whole country does every year, and I won. And okay, let's move move on, keep going.
Yeah.
It was like, oh my gosh, that was just another like very lightly glossed over thing. Bart's like,
Yeah.
no, good job.
Yeah, so anyways, Choo Choo sucks. I hate this character, but they can't get in because Choo Choo's blocking the door. So we gotta go talk to Margie so Margie can move this thing for
Yes.
us for some reason. So you go down and talk
But it
to
kind of
Margie.
followed us down to Margie, which is kind of weird. Right.
Yeah.
Well, my memory is that it just kind of shows up. She doesn't go get it.
I think I don't know if we ever see this. I can't remember if there's a point where she explains it, but on the wiki page, like the Xenogears wiki page for
Mhm.
her, it says that she picked Choo Choo up in like a market or something. So like one of
Oh.
the oven markets.
So when she got kidnapped, she had already had Choo Choo.
and she the Choo Choo was disguising itself as a stuffed animal, and was purposefully like not moving, and so Margie thought it was a stuffed animal.
I was wondering if Margie knew.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay.
Because she, anyways, when you go talk to Margie, she's like, oh, that's why, she has some really weird line, like, oh, that's why it felt so lukewarm or something like that. And then, like, Choo Choo, like, declares its love for Faye.
Yeah,
and
that,
you're like, oh, nice, I don't know, I don't. The whole scene.
I don't know what to make of Choo Choo.
Make nothing of Choo Choo.
strange.
But, see, here's the thing, is that you can almost entirely ignore this character. I feel, I'm telling you,
Mhm.
to enjoy the game more, just ignore Choo Choo as much as possible.
Okay.
But I think for me, to
Okay, so she has these funky sleeves. See, the shoulder shoots up like this.
Like,
And it goes down, wraps around, starts to wrap around the elbow.
Yeah, the Jar Jar Binks. Yeah,
Star Wars.
I can tell.
Right. That's the
Meow. Reminds me a bit of Meow.
Meow. Or let's see, we've got like Tatsu in Xenoblade Chronicles X, Wiki in Xenoblade Chronicles.
I think
Anyways,
I've seen some of that.
that's that character type, right? Of all of those, they tend to be very hit or miss. It's like you're either gonna find this person extremely annoying, the audience will reject that character,
Yeah.
like Jar Jar Binks,
Like Jar Jar Binks.
or they will fall in love with them and just like, oh, that's such a charming character. For me, Tina almost has that effect.
Yes, Kina's great.
I don't know.
Kina's not overwhelming though. That's
Yes.
just fine. He
He
is probably not in the game enough.
Yeah.
Actually.
I find Tina hilarious.
Me too. Very
And
much so.
I think Tina fits within like that sort of world that they built, where
Yeah.
they have hippopotamus people
That's
and stuff like that.
yeah. Although in Xenogears
They have demi-humans in this too.
double people.
We'll talk about that later.
But yeah, that's true. The feeling of Final Fantasy IX was a little bit.
Alright.
I think also in Star Wars, I feel like R2D2 or R2D2 and C3PO were meant to be that
Yeah.
type of character as well together, or maybe just R2 alone. But R2 doesn't like talk much, and so it's not. It can't be annoying. R2 can't be annoying.
Well, and
By
R2 is
definition.
also very useful.
Very much so.
That's-
Two.
R2 saves
He has a
them
little
lot of
gadget
times.
for like everything.
Yeah,
Three.
and so like I think the key
Yeah,
to
that's
making this type of character likable, because Jar Jar was always useful.
That's true. He had no point. He had no use.
He never like
Except he like accidentally killed like a bunch of.
yes, but that felt
And he also brought down the entire Republic.
that felt unconvincing because it was like he's too dumb and he's also by
How could
accident.
he have
doing
been
all
a
this.
senator? I just don't know.
Right.
But yes,
He's by
that is-
accident pulling all this stuff. And it's like, oh, that's annoying.
Yes.
But if Jar Jar wasn't just a complete idiot all the time,
Yeah, if he
and
was
had
good at something.
some things where he could actually offer
Just like one thing.
something,
Yeah.
then I think that would go a long
Yeah.
way towards making him a more likable character.
I think that's a good point with R2D2 there.
And so R2 is
Yeah.
very useful, and so
Yeah.
for that reason you like him.
Do you do battle with Choo Choo? Does Choo Choo?
Oh, fight, you can fight in party.
Oh.
You can bring her
Let's say maybe
along.
that's the difference between it. All right. Well, we'll see. As season game goes, see how this works.
You'll see. You'll see. But anyways, this seems really silly.
There
They
we
just
go.
Kind of gloss over it, but I don't like it.
Yeah.
Super elaborate sleeve.
So you go back to the
That
bridge.
shit's crazy.
Sigurd is there, and he starts to kind of explain a little bit about what he knows about Ramses, right? And this becomes an issue for Bart later. Like you were saying, Bart is in this position where he feels like, how do I trust anyone at this point?
Yes,
Even my own people.
Once we learn about Sigurd, that throws Bart's world into a weird place.
It's like even my own people are withholding information from me.
Yes.
And like I feel like I'm the one out of the loop on everything, and
Yeah.
everyone else knows stuff. So
at the same time, Bart is very young.
Yeah.
So, but I guess that's how young people feel.
So Sigurd is explaining who Ramses is to them. He says it seems that Gebler isn't just after the excavation sites found around Alve after all, right? Not just the gear that the Jasper unlocks, right? The treasure, the Fatima treasure. It looks like Gebler's not only after that, is what he's saying.
Yeah.
And then Bart says, "You mean they're not after the Jasper?" And Sigurd says, "If that's their only goal, they wouldn't need to send an important man like him. So they wouldn't need to send Ramses if the only thing they were after here was the Jasper and the gear that we suppose the Jasper unlocks."
All right, so
he's
high
thinking
shoulder,
that they want something more if they're going to send someone like that.
crossover at the
So
elbow.
that's just kind of the catalyst for Bart's beginnings of distrusting Sigurd. It's like, how do you even know who
Yeah.
Ramses is?
Yeah. And once he finds
One,
out
two,
how,
three.
it's not helpful to Bart.
Yeah.
One,
Bart basically
two,
Bart just gets up and leaves. We'll get to that later. But yeah,
3.
Bart is not. He doesn't feel like he knows because this was a thing. He says, Sigurd, I've known you my whole life.
Yeah.
Like ever since I was little. Like how did this never come up?
Yeah, exactly. Like, why did you hold this conversation?
Yeah.
But then there's another scene when Saitan finally gets back. Like
Yes,
he
and
was
we
gone
didn't
for a
know.
while.
We were like, how does he get back? It was
Yeah.
like a really weird kind of thing, and we were eavesdropping on this one.
Yeah,
So
Faye's
Saitan
kind of
was
watching
speaking.
from the top of the stairs.
Yes.
And but this conversation is filled with good stuff.
Yeah.
So Sigurd starts the conversation. He says, "Now I see why you came down to the surface." To Satan. Now I see why you came down.
Came down, and now this is important for me because throughout this game, they don't hint at what exactly is going on here. So when people talk about going to the surface, my thinking was that they were beneath the surface. My thinking was not that they were above, right? So
you thought they were underground.
I thought they were underground, and I think I even mentioned that in a couple podcasts, right? I said, yeah, there's people underground, and then there's the above ground people, the surface people. So it seems as though the surface dwellers are the people who are above the surface dwellers are the up in the sky, they're not underground, because he says go down to the surface. But that was the first time that I had thought that they weren't like underground.
Yeah. So like I guess it would depend on what you'd seen. Aside from seeing the floating UFO looking city thing floating above, aside from that, there's only that optional piece of dialogue with the guy at the carnival.
Yeah,
He talks about all of his research into the people in the flying
yes,
thing.
and that was fine. I even still thought those were separate people.
Like a separate
from it. I thought that was like a separate, like, oh, those are the gods, those are the aliens, those are the angels, those are, and then the Jugend people are underground, and then we're on the surface. I had a way of kind of separating it in my mind, but they are. It seems like they are one
Yeah,
the
they're the same.
same. Yeah, and so Sigurd and Satan were both
From
Solaris, from this city in the clouds or something like that, up in the sky or possibly beyond that. But
So he says, "Now I see why you came down to the surface. All right, I understand you. But Kalaran Ramses taking over the post of Ave is pretty annoying." So they're worried. Sigurd in particular is worried about the fact that Ramses is there.
yeah,
And so Saitan says the home country might have some special reasons. And Sigurd says, "Yeah, obviously." And Saitan says, perhaps there's still chances, he says. You and I, who used to be called elements at the commander's training school unit, are both here. Now this is one of the most blatant as you know dialogue
I know.
examples.
As you
I've
know,
ever
we
seen.
both went to this school and were called this name. Man.
Like remember how we went to Jugend and we were elements once?
Yeah, I remember.
Of course.
we who are elements.
Anyways, that line is written for the audience's for the audience's sake only. So it's essentially the reveal that Saitan and Sigurd were both from that same Jugend military academy Yeah, Ellie comes from.
Right, because she went from Yugen as well.
Right.
So I guess I assumed they were, but now you're bringing up there might actually be multiple Yugens.
No, there's only one.
Okay, well, okay, then they are.
They're from the same.
Okay, I thought that, but I just thought it sounded like maybe there could be multiple.
Yeah. So they come from that same military academy. They trained and they became what are called elements.
Mm-hmm.
They don't give too much of an explanation of what elements are at this time. We'll see this more later on, but for now you can just assume that's a pretty elite level.
That element,
to become an element.
It seems
In the Gebler force is like
a foundational.
You're like top notch. You're material at that level, right? And then Sigurd says, "I hope you're right." And then Saikan says, "By the way, she is still," and kind of lingers on that. And then Sigurd says, "According to Faye, there was a female aide on Car's side, and he said that she had indigo blue eyes and hair, so it must be her." So they're concerned about Miang. So it's not just Ramses that they're worried about. They're also something about Miang that they're like,
Okay.
yeah, she's here too. And then
And that's
Faye
the problem.
described that she had this indigo blue hair or purple hair.
Yeah, it's just kind of hanging in the background. It seems
We
at
get
the moment.
at the moment, Miang is like there was that one shot where Ramses really came down on Vanderkam or whatever, and then
Yeah.
he's walking with Shakan, and Miang sort of remained behind a little bit to talk to him, and then she talked to him.
Probably.
But she seems to be observing, but we
Yeah.
do get another clue here that she has something that she's plotting herself when she talks to Graf.
Yes,
A little bit
in this
later.
playthrough we did get clear.
Because Graf is kind of pissed that she's getting involved too.
Stay out of my
So you
and
have-
she's like, hey, I'm
Half
just
pissed that she's here. Saitan and Sigurd are worried
Yes.
that she's here.
And then Ramses probably has some, although it seems like they're in a relationship, and that's why
Yeah.
they're together at the moment. But
Yeah. So they're worried about her.
Okay.
Saitan says, so all the old elements members are on the surface world.
okay, and this is what I had got from this is that there are four elements at the place,
Yes.
and all four of them are here. There are
But he does say
earth, wind, fire, water. There are the four elements.
all the, or not former, but all the old elements members are on the surface. I think you could read that as former. You'll probably be more correct.
Tatsude no Rinko. So if I look at Tatsude, that means once. So it would be former.
Yeah,
It would be once. The once, yeah, the former,
That's what I thought.
not old.
Because it makes more
How does
sense.
it-
It makes more sense, and it makes it clearer. All the former elements members are on the
So-
surface now.
Would there only be one element at a time?
No, there's
There
four.
we
elements.
go.
But, well, okay, sure, I get you. But like,
There's one element team at a time. It's like a team.
okay,
Four.
okay, that makes sense.
So the former four element members are now all on the surface.
Okay,
And we know
Does
three
that-
of them, Sigurd, Ramses, and Saitan.
yeah.
We don't know the fourth right now, but that person is also on the surface.
But they did suggest somebody, I actually had a different thought there. So does that mean that there are four current elements?
Yes.
So there are the formers, and then now there's currents.
There's a different group
So
of
there
four
are
elements.
essentially like 8 elements now.
Yeah.
Okay.
But these are they're like,
Okay.
I don't know what you call them. Like, he's not, Ramses is not designated as an element anymore. Now
Right, he's former and
he's chief commander or whatever.
Sure.
Of Gemma. But, so there's four elements. We will meet these characters many times later.
Great.
So anyways. But Saitan and Sigurd and Ramses used to be friends. So then Sigurd says, I guess so, Hugo. To be honest with you, she scares me. When he's talking Miang. She supports Carr and is kind to anyone. I know that very well. But sometimes I felt a strange fear in her. That bothers me more than Carr being in this life. So he's more concerned about Miang than he is about Ramses. And he's concerned about Ramses. He's very concerned about Ramses. And Saitan says, that cannot be true, not in her. And Sigurd says, yeah, I don't want to believe it either. But don't you remember how I can always sense these things quite accurately? It's kind of funny, it's strange the way it's written. Right?
One
But-
thing, I said there's but there's a woman. Yeah, they mentioned somebody helped them escape. Is that right?
No, I don't think they said that.
Okay, they didn't. May not have said that, but they mentioned that somebody was there when they escaped. Is that or something more or less? It would be right in this
I
conversation.
don't think it's in this conversation, but I do think, I kind of do. Because he says,
According to Faye, there was a
female
female
aid
aid.
on our side.
But when it says
With
aid,
indigo blue eyes and hair.
yeah, but and hair. I thought they missed the word there. I couldn't remember at least I felt it. But I was like, okay, but here's the thing. According to Faye, there was a female aide on Car's side. So a female aided us, but was on Car's side.
Oh.
That's Ella.
Oh, yeah. No, there's...
Now,
aid is probably the wrong word. It's like a subordinate.
advisor
or advisor.
or
Yeah.
freaking like wife. I don't know. I don't know what's going on between them. It seems like they sleep in the same bed. Not wearing clothes
They're in
together.
a relationship, but they're
Very
not
much so.
married.
Okay, girlfriend, something,
Yeah.
whatever. But when it says there was a female aide, and then they're like, "Oh, she's nice to everyone." I'm sorry. I
You're
thought
reading that as Ellie
I
instead.
thought this was Ellie. I thought they were referring to Ellie through this entire conversation. I did not get that it was Mia.
Yeah. So it's just the indigo blue eyes and hair thing.
Yeah. So the idea is indigo blue eyes and indigo blue hair. That's the idea.
Indigo blue eyes, and she also had hair.
Yes.
Indiscriminate. We're not talking about the color there. She
Just
also had hair.
No, I don't know why. I brushed. I'm sorry. I brushed this stuff off because I read it and I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird. Next, like I just
Yeah.
don't because here this is maybe one of the problems of a game when people say, oh, a game was the translation wasn't done thoroughly and
Yeah.
properly. You end up with mistakes that aren't mistakes, but that the reader might think are mistakes and hit next and keep
Sure.
going. So for me, that's because up to this point, the dialogue
Right.
has, for the most part, been great. I'm not knocking Richard Miller or anything, but it's been weird at parts, and often I will just be like, oh, that's weird, and not think anything. Once my head says, oh, that's weird, but dialogue, translation, not
Yeah.
so good. I end up brushing things like this off as like, oh, that's weird. They didn't mention red hair. Okay, whatever, and then just next, right?
Oh,
Like I don't think. And also, indigo is kind of like a purplish color,
Yeah.
and neon is more, I describe it more as blue. And so,
She had purple hair, I would say.
okay.
I thought it was weird that they described it as
Fair enough.
indigo blue, because that's like, her hair's spectacular.
Oh, I thought it was blue. Maybe there's a difference in the
Hold on, let's take a
original.
look at the...
But, okay, it might be purple, but even still, indigo kind of could be like a reddish. It's like purple, I know that, but it didn't seem that off for me to have assumed. I mean, that's purple, but it's very blue. It's purple blue.
It's
not.
indigo blue.
It's not the same color as her eyes.
Her eyes just look blue.
Here's what they should have said: blue eyes and indigo hair. That maybe would
Yeah,
have
that
made
might
me
have helped.
rethink it. But when they said indigo blue eyes and hair, and knowing that the translation's been shaky this whole game, I wasn't able to catch things that I ought to have caught.
Yeah.
And then they go on to say things that are very indicative of Ellie. That
Okay,
she's very
so
kind,
this
and, oh, I'm
back
worried about
leg
her,
is
and
going to-
She's here too. Oh no, that's weird. We know Ellie went to Yugen, and so, but she's here too.
Yeah.
It just all kind of worked with Ellie and not me. I don't want to talk about this feeling because I'm wrong, but I feel like there's something to. I didn't have these problems as much in the first few playthroughs. In this playthrough, I'm misinterpreting things left and right.
Games that we played.
No, with the other this
parts.
game with other parts. Now there's been parts where I'm like, oh, I thought they were saying something else or whatever. It's happened so far, almost every section that we've gone through here, and I feel like the reason is that I'm not reading carefully enough, and because the translation,
It's not great.
I'm skipping things I don't know to skip.
Okay,
I don't know what to.
I actually think that you shouldn't feel too bad about that, because I have continued to say, I didn't remember that this was revealed or that this seems so
Right,
obvious,
right.
because I think that what you're saying, there's a lot of truth to what you're saying.
No.
There is something funky enough about the way people talk at times that make you get confused and, well, I don't get it, whatever.
And you don't
They'll
have
explain
time
it
to
later.
just look exactly.
I'm sure
yeah.
I'll get this if I just keep going, kind
Sure.
of thing. I think that maybe that happens at spots, and the game is so dense with information.
And there's a
and
lot of
characters,
reading, yeah.
and a lot of names to remember, and a lot of, not even just names of people,
Multiple names.
places, and
Some people have multiple names.
factions names and people have multiple names like Hugh and Saiken. There's a lot happening. And so at any point, if you're feeling overwhelmed and there's a line, because there's been at least, while I'm playing with the patrons, like 4 or 5 times where I've stopped on a sentence and be like, let me reread that again. And trying to like piece, okay, I think, okay, yeah, I get it. There's enough points where the dialogue is still a little stunted or just not written very well.
All right, let's
I can see that being something.
let's go over this a little bit. Try to clean this up as much as I can. As you can see, very intricate.
Well, I mean, so that's the age we were, 10, 12 at the time.
Yeah, so that would confuse them.
Damn, I didn't even get her hair.
Even now at my age.
You know what? Let me get the dress first.
Yes,
It's still
confusing.
It's still confusing for me. But I guess it's kind of meant to be confusing, but I don't think it was meant to be confusing this way. I think I was supposed to know at the end, but they didn't say her name. And so I just kind of, started thinking something else.
So, anyways, they're worried about Mia. And Sigurd is mentioning some kind of ability to be able to sense things. So let's take a look at that part again, knowing we're talking about.
Right, Sigurd is like I have where I can feel things accurately.
He says, to be honest with you, she scares me. She supports Carr and is kind to anyone. I know that very well, but sometimes I felt a strange fear in her, in Leah. That bothers me more than Carr being in this line. And then Saiken's like, no, that can't be true. Not in her, right? So this is vague. This is vague. He's talking about the fact that he senses some kind of fear in Leah.
And it sounds like she's not scared of anything.
Maybe. Like, it's
like she's not afraid.
They're clearly trying to be vague around what it is about her that Sigurd is sensing in the
Yes. But clearly they're like, no, but it can't be.
Whatever
Which
it
is
is.
the way that Ramses was talking about us. No, it can't be. Could it be?
Yes.
Like time of the gospel kind of stuff. Where it's like, it's weird enough, you don't get it, but they're thinking of something that's supposed to happen.
Yes.
But they don't know who it's going to happen to.
Yes.
Whatever it is.
And the fact that Sigurd seems to feel like he has an extrasensory ability to sense this kind of thing.
No.
I'll put it that way.
Wait, if he says, I felt a strange fear in her, does that mean that he felt the fear, like I'm afraid of what I felt within her, or I feel that she's afraid of something else that's
I don't want to take what we clearly demonstrated. What we clearly demonstrated is a faulty, at many points, translation. But and read too much into a word like fear. Maybe you can look at what it says in Japanese instead of fear. But I'm just going to say he senses something about her. And Sigurd mentions this a little bit in the scene that's coming up too. He has this sort of extrasensory ability to sense things. And this is why Solaris took interest in him and they did experiments on it. He has this sensory ability outside of the normal senses.
Okay.
So I don't know what the word they use in Japanese for fear is, but what I'm saying is he senses something about her, and Saiken doesn't seem to want to believe that it's possible.
Okay, hold on. This is interesting. だから俺は彼女に何か得体の知れぬ恐怖を感じることがあったんだ. So I feel a 恐怖 and 恐怖 means fear. But this is saying, so I, as for me, towards the girl, 俺は, that means I am the subject of this. So me to the woman feel fear.
So he's
I have fear about the woman.
Yeah, that makes way more sense.
So the woman doesn't have fear. The person who has fear is Sigurd. He's like, I have some weird fear about her.
Instead of saying, sometimes I felt a strange fear in her, he should say, sometimes I have felt a strange fear about her.
I think about would make sense.
Yes.
Because the way it's written, it sounds like she's the one who's afraid, but he's fearing about something about her.
Which makes a million times
more sense. Makes way more sense. Way more clear in the Japanese. But Satan is denying it, and it makes more sense that he would deny it. Because, like I mentioned before, I'm like, Is Satan saying no? She's not afraid of anything.
Yes. He's
Well,
saying
that would be she's like an android or
that
something.
what it is you're sensing cannot be true about her.
Yes.
Is what Satan is saying.
Yes.
And then
So
Sigurd's
what
like,
you're afraid
yeah,
of.
but I don't want to believe that either. But you remember that I'm pretty good at sensing these things accurately. Right?
Yes. So it was his sense of
Yes.
fear. That's So
And
that's Anderson. That's
and
Anderson.
then
This all
Satan-
makes way more sense now.
And then Satan says, right. And then Sigurd is, I don't want him to worry until we know exactly what Solaris' objectives are. He's talking about Bart. Right? I don't want Bart.
Him to worry. Sure.
But I have to tell him eventually. Anyway, Hugh, have you gotten any information? And Satan says, not really. I left there before getting into the center.
And I don't believe Satan. Anytime someone asks him for information and he goes, yeah, I don't have any info, actually. Sorry, I don't know. I just know everything in the world. But what you want to know, I don't have
It's a pretty good clue that he's probably just hiding.
Yes, he's hiding from everyone, but he's collecting from everyone. And
Yeah.
usually that signals an alarm in people, like, oh, this guy's a spy or something.
Yeah.
He's collecting info the way that, people with nefarious purposes do. But I don't believe, and I would hold even through this playthrough, Satan I still think has some noble purpose. But
Okay.
that's what I think so far.
Okay. Okay. And then at that point, they decide to go to Nissan or Nissan.
Yes, but I have one thing here because this is hilarious. This is more a more comical answer. But Bart, Bart shows up because we're kind of eavesdropping in on the conversation.
Oh, right.
And we're just like, what in the world's going on? Like Satan and Sigurd are having a very strange conversation about things that are way over our head, but that's weird. We didn't know this about Satan. We didn't know this about Sigurd. Bart shows up and he's like, hey, babe, like, stop it, Bart. He goes, sorry, Dari. Sorry, Dari. Did you think, what did you think when you read that?
As soon as what I thought what came to mind is Dilly Dally Shilly Shilly.
Yes, there you go. And then show that. So what he says in Japanese is suman, 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 which suman is short for sumanai, which is short for sumimasen, which just means sorry or excuse me. Like, it's a normal thing to say. Suman, suman. It's very rude or it's very informal. But as it relates to saying sorry, suman, suman, suman is a relatively normal thing for in an informal setting. Sorry, Dari is not someone anyone says ever. And so I have to take qualms with this translation because it's like, while the Japanese is a relatively normal thing to say, the English, and I don't know, anybody from Australia out there who maybe has some insight, do they say sorry, Dari in Australia?
I've never heard that.
You would never take suman and translate it to sorry, Dari. You would never do that. And I understand Honeywood's, what I mentioned last time, where he's got the formal and informal, and he's trying to show us without saying it out, that this is informal. Yeah.
There we go.
I really
Didn't like that.
don't like it. Yeah. I don't like that choice.
Well,
Sorry,
because
Dari.
I've never heard anyone say so.
In my freaking life.
That- This might be the one instance in all of human history where someone has written or uttered the word sorry.
Sorry, Dari.
Ever. Unless we're completely wrong and there's like a whole freaking.
That's what I'm saying. Is this an Australian thing? Is this from Sydney?
That's a good
I
point.
don't
He's from
think so.
Australia.
He is from there. They say some words differently, but really not much.
I'm not necessarily inundated in Australian media, but I feel like I've seen a lot of
You've
Australian.
seen Crocodile Dundee, right? Did he say sorry, Dari?
No.
I'm just checking this.
I've seen some Australian stuff. Never
Yeah.
heard him say that before.
Yeah,
but
it's a
they-
weird thing to say, but in the Japanese, it's not weird at all. So, anyways.
So, they go to Nissan because they're going to take Margie back because she's like the mother of
Yes,
the whole set.
Bart called her the Great Mother or something.
Yeah, I guess it's an inherited title, kind of like. a
Because
king.
she's young. She's like
Yeah,
really young.
Like
how
a
old is
king.
she?
she's a couple years younger than Bart. I think she's 16. So he's 18, she's 16. Okay, she looks a freaking lot younger.
She
than
looks
that.
like 10.
She looks 10.
She looks
But
like
this is
10.
a Japanese RPG, and that's how they roll.
Sure.
But I think she's 16. So,
She's wearing baggy clothes, so it's kind of hard
Yeah,
to
that
tell
kind
her
of-
figure, I guess.
so she is the holy mother of the Nissan set, of the whole church, basically.
So does that mean she's like the
Okay.
spiritual leader, or is she like the administrator? Like does she
I would think-
administrate?
I would think, well, maybe the title of both,
Yeah.
but I would think at least the spiritual.
That seems probable, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at least that, but I would think probably both. It seems that Mother Agnes or Sister Agnes is someone who's sort of
Probably
like
administrates.
trying to like train her into the role.
I see. Okay.
Right, she's like trying to like prepare her to
Yeah.
become that. And in the meantime, she's probably the one running things at the moment.
Yeah.
But, you know, training Margie to pass.
All right, now let's do the hair.
Because she's the heir of the role. Right?
Yeah.
So they take her, they take her there, and so we kind of stop off. Nissan's an interesting little town.
Yeah, it's
There's,
cool. It's not quite as cool as I thought it was going to be, given what I want to say Vladimir, but what's the city called?
Yeah, Vladimir.
Oh, Vladimir. Okay.
The main capital of it.
Yeah. I was so blown away by that city.
Cool.
And this has a similar thing where there's multiple instances, and it kind of go up into like a central place, but then there's the roundabout area. By the way, this city looks similar to Atlantis, like in the general design, given the ring of water around it,
Oh, right.
and then the city, and then the sepulcher type thing, the whatever it is in the very middle. It gives me kind of an Atlantis kind of feeling.
Yeah. So there's a couple things you can do in the town and people you can talk to. One kind of interesting, there's like a house you go into and it's just like a bunch of artists and paintings and things like
Yeah,
that.
that was interesting.
And
Oh yeah,
there's
that's right.
you can go talk to guys like, oh, you're an artist too? And Faye's like, no,
Yeah,
you're
why?
not.
I wonder
But
why.
like on the table next to it, he sort of notices some like tools, like paintbrushes, and he's like, man, it's been a while since I've like painted.
Yeah.
But he's kind of just like playing off
It
the fact
almost-
that he's an artist himself.
Yeah, it almost seems to me like he's left his former life behind. Like
Yeah, maybe.
he's come to a point where he's like, I no longer do what I used to do. I'm not that person with
that person.
Yeah. It's partly because he doesn't want to be that person.
Yeah. Well, I mean, part of like his a big step for the character in the last episode we talked about was when he decided like I don't know what my path is, but I'm gonna find it in going with you and helping people.
Yeah,
You're
I
the
think
right
that was
people to
good.
do it. And so he's kind of
Yeah, that was
concentrating now on what's my new purpose in life. He's
Yes.
not really thinking about
Yeah.
who he used to be or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, lots of interesting NPC dialogue. There is like a town hall meeting happening, and it's like the elders of the town are kind of gathering, and it's actually a really good scene where they're all concerned.
Am I off the camera? I'm sorry.
Bartholomew is alive. What are we going to do about this? Because Shakan's going to be pissed that they escaped.
Nissan is like neutral. They remain relatively
Yeah.
neutral.
Yeah,
in the war.
they're not engaged in the
Kislev
Ave.
Yeah. Okay.
And
That's
so
kind of-
it's like, what do we do? Like, they're gonna come here,
Yeah.
and we're gonna have to be involved in some way. What side do we take? What action do we take? There's a lot of deliberation between different people there who have a lot of different concerns. It's all pretty well written, and it's all very convincing as to like what realistically would be the concerns
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
Nissan in this situation.
Yeah.
And Bart kind of overhearing this is
Okay.
like, yo, let's not tell Margie about anything we just heard. I'd like her to like have a happiness for a
Yeah.
little bit longer and be reunited with the sisters at the church and not worry about the fact
Yes,
that her arrival
that's
here has now compromised Lisa.
Yeah.
Let's not
She
tell
was
her that.
kidnapped on purpose. Yeah. Or
So-
for a reason.
Yeah, it's a good scene. It's a really good scene, and it kind of just keeps that lingering. It's like a lingering doom on the mind as like as you're doing all this. It's like, yeah, but at the same time, like we escaped. It's like we felt successful at having completed what we intended to do there, but we
Yeah.
might have just doomed Nissan at the same time.
Yeah, it's like
What
everywhere
we're
Fade
doing.
goes, he's kind of bringing some negative energy there.
Yeah, for sure.
One way or another.
So, anyways, as usual, talk to everybody, go see as much as you can.
Yeah, it's a cool town. It's just
Cool
not
town.
quite as
As
things to do ridden as Vladimir.
But what I really love here is when you actually get to the cathedral.
Oh my
Like,
gosh,
it's on-
beautiful! My gosh, this is like pixel art. Well, it's 3D, but still,
Yeah.
like it is exquisite.
It's
It's so good.
Really, one of my favorite, again, architectural pieces
Yeah.
in the game. I really like Saiton's house.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's
that
a
was
really,
good.
it's a really cool design. But this cathedral is really, really cool. So you have like the sisters there who are singing, and there's so the music that's playing is diegetic. It's like they're singing a hymn.
Yeah.
And you hear the choir singing, and as soon as Margie walks in, they stop. And they come running to greet her. Like, oh, Sister Margie's
That
back.
part was cool. That part.
Yeah, a lot of warmth
Yes.
in the conversation there between the sisters,
Yeah.
and really liked that. It was just a really nice little scene there. Sister Agnes, just so happy that she's back, and Margie's like, "This is weird. You're supposed to be scolding me,
tell me what to do.
correcting me is not normal. I
Yeah.
need you to like scold me."
That was special. And at the very end, as they're leaving, Agnes does tell her one thing.
Yeah, and she's like, "That's the Agnes."
And she's like, "There we go. Like, hey, get on. Like, get rest or something."
Yeah. So, anyways, Margie's like, "Hey, let me show you around." So you kind of follow her up to the second floor, the landing up there. And I think Satan puts it really well here. In
Of course he does.
describing
Talking to
the
himself.
beauty, because we're talking about how cool the cathedral
Yes.
is.
Yes.
He says, "Yes, this is breathtaking. Light from outside shining through the stained glass of the cathedral's front. What a brilliant piece of artistry this is." And that's how I felt from the second, because a lot of cool camera moves as they look through that pane glass and the beams of light coming down.
Yeah,
into the
which they
center.
literally 3D modeled like the beam going down,
Yeah.
because that you guys can do it any other way.
They probably don't need real-time lighting.
Yeah, if you walk into it, you're.
Yeah, it's probably like a transparent, polygonal model.
Yeah, cylindrical thing. Yeah.
Anyways,
That was good.
really cool. And then of course you have the statues that are like the featured symbol there on kind of the, what do you call it? The pulpit area.
Altar, yeah.
Altar.
Yeah, and above it, they're suspended above it. Yeah.
Right. So they go up to the top, and this is where Margie starts to explain the symbolism of that in
Yeah.
the statue. Now, before we can break down this dialogue, this is the right time, I feel, to bring up Carl Jung's influence.
Yeah, this one's
on
very
that.
fishy.
Sure.
Reminds me
I
of
started
fish
feeling it when,
and coral.
started talking. He's like, "Oh,
Coral!
this is what,
And
this
things
is-
like
this
that.
sounds like- this symbolizes the whole ideology, one image, you know?"
Right.
Yeah.
So, lock in here for a second and stay with me. And we're going to talk for a little bit here about Carl Jung and some of the things, like some of his theories and what he was known for, why he was such an influential figure in psychology.
Yeah.
It's going to take a little bit, but like, it's all important groundwork and context to sort of understand the pinnacle, central thematic message of Xenogears. This is it. This symbol of the two angel figures and what Carl Jung's theories that Takashi and Saga were reading and talking about at the time, this is what they took from him and inserted into the game as their core message. This is what Xenogears is about. So I feel it's justified to elaborate a little bit. So, Carl Jung was a Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst. Well, he was more a psychoanalyst earlier on in his career, but he sort of broke away from Freud a little bit.
Yes. Well, it was particular over the ego, I think. They had differences in what the ego was and what it meant.
Right.
Yeah. I think Carl Jung ended up winning out, because I think most people will, when they talk about my ego or inflating your ego, I think they're typically talking about Jung's definition, not
Right.
Freud's.
And so Jung founded a field called analytical psychology. And essentially, his theories within that field diverge from Freudian psychoanalysis. So for many years, the two had corresponded and collaborated and worked together.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, Freud was hoping that Jung would be like his protege.
Right.
Sort of like carry the torch on from him.
Yeah.
But it didn't end up working out that way. And as they began to disagree more and more, there was a schism in their relationship. It became fractured. Freud did not have a lot of kind things to say about Jung later on. They both felt like the other person could not admit when they were wrong, which is typical of highly educated
Yeah.
intellectuals,
Sure.
we tend to get a form of pride,
Yeah.
and it does become difficult for those people to admit they're wrong, and they become really, especially when they're developing like a new
All right.
science or a new field, and they become really captured.
Yes.
Like,
And this one is so complex. I think I'm gonna leave it at that
there's kind of an inherent bias in
and pick this up later. I kind of got all the groundwork laid out as far as all like the main blocks of the hair, the main blocks of the suit and sleeves, and even using the blue pen here to really separate these things. This is going to be the major part to try to remember. This is where I use the white marker to kind of clean it up on this one that we just left, and kind of regretted it and had to use all these paint markers to kind of come in, and then it compromised the design. All in all, same thing right here, even with the bow, really threw me off. So I'm not going to use a white marker, and hopefully just remember how to color this one in. But yeah, let's see, what is this? Almost a 6-hour video. So yeah, man, this is pretty good, pretty decent. And yeah, got a bunch done. Starting to see, like, even though these illustrations are good compared to what I was doing just a little bit ago, you look at these 2 square designs, 1 square designs. Like, if we go back just a little bit, you see these 2 square designs. Like, there was so much, like, even this, like, I still really like it. But yeah, I was using duller markers, and yeah, the quality is just really down. You can see why I went out and purchased all the skin tone markers as well. But I'm like I'm looking at this and I love it, and then I look at these and I'm like, I got what I wanted done, and they're still cool, but it's like, man, I wish I'd drawn them bigger. But also I don't, because we kind of gotta move on, right? Like, we just gotta muscle through all this stuff. I mean, the whole point is to just cover the page and fill up the page. So I feel like I've done that. So I'm not going to go in with the white marker and potentially ruin this, especially since it's already a really dark drawing as it is. It's going to be mainly black, and then like a really dark red. Basically how I did the inside of the skirt here, I'm going to use the same tactic on the red portion of her, which is like this kind of fishy stuff there, and then the fishy stuff down here, and then yeah, the rest is going to be black, blonde, ivory, and yeah, it's going to be super cool, man. But yeah, this is a good design, good place to stop. It was a decent night of getting some stuff done, and yeah, just one last look at what we've done here, and yeah, tons of fun. You can see how, like, throwing the hair in as part of the scarf here it kind of complicates things with the jacket and everything. It's like, oh man. So yeah, I just wonder, but yeah, you know what? These drawings ain't that bad. Now that I think about it, looking at these compared to other ones, like I said, getting the crushed leather in, it's harder to get the details on these smaller ones going. But yeah, either way, I guess that's what I offer those giant commissions on Patreon for, so that way I could draw something dope, more detailed like this. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to imagine, something like these. Something like these portraits here. And yeah, man, I kind of miss this, working on my original stuff. But jumping on this and drawing this quality at this scale, I think would be super cool. And looking forward to that, man. Like I said, I got watercolor paper now for my
collective unconscious.
uh,
And
to kind of work on my own sketches. Same concepts. I'll be doing the small squares, but yeah, when I jump back into my original character stuff and I start working on their portraits, yeah, definitely gonna do that with watercolors. That way I can bust out the watercolor markers, or no, just the watercolor paints. My bad. I don't have watercolor markers. I got paintbrushes, and yeah, I feel like that's gonna be a lot of fun. But yeah, this is gonna be cool too, man. This is giant, takes up the whole page. I wonder if I'll be able to fit anything. Like I might draw her sleeve, like just her arm, to kind of break down the sleeve a little bit more. And we'll see if I do anything in these top corners. Like definitely this one. Should definitely do something there, right? Anyways, this looks good. So I want to thank you all for watching. I'm G Mr. Drew. It's at G Mr. Drew on all social media. Follow, like, and subscribe. All those links are in my bio along with my website, gmrdrew.art. Check out my website. Contact me through there if you want. And yeah, if you're interested in commissions, I'm on Patreon and Fiverr. I'd suggest the Patreon prices are a lot more lenient there, just because I want to show appreciation for those who want to support me. But yeah, if you want to just straight up hire me, kind of have me put a halt to everything that I'm doing so I can bust out something for you real quick, then yeah, just check me out on Fiverr. Other than that, man, love y'all. Peace.
And so